In 3, 2. Welcome, everybody, to Juice Pro Wrestling. No, we're going to cut that. God damn it, Sreten, you already fucked me up.
So freaking bad. Wrestle me.
Welcome, everybody, to Juice Pro Wrestling, episode 104, Mondo Lucha, with Sreten and the Juice. Today is a very special guest. This man is the creator behind Mondo Lucha, one of Milwaukee's premier promotion, one of the Midwest's premier wrestling promotions. And not only do they feature Mexican Lucha Libre wrestling and many talents that you guys have seen, top talents, I might add, from the independent scene, they also feature magicians, musical acts, burlesque acts. They have it all. It's a fucking party, and it's something that you guys need to check out. And here to let everybody know about Mondo Lucha today is Jay Gilkay. What's going on, Jay?
Hey, how you doing? Good to see you.
Good to see you, brother. Thanks for coming on, man. I appreciate it.
No, glad to be here, actually. Let me, I'll start off right off the bat and say we haven't had a magician on our show in about 11 years. So,
well, that's magic.
Fine.
That's fucking magic.
The last magician,
disappearing act.
Right. The last magician we had on got his ass kicked, so that was pretty fun. So, but that was a long time ago. But definitely, it's a little bit of everything. So we try to cram it all in there. So it's good.
Yeah, I like it. Forced entry, huh?
Yeah.
So you guys, I mean, like I said, you guys are like an amalgam of just all kinds of entertaining things. What you guys been going on for how long? 11 years?
This would have been 12 at this point. We'll see if the September show and our other stuff we have lined up happens this year with the COVID stuff going on. About I'd say 11 and a half, 12 years ago, my friend Andy and I went to an indie show, and it wasn't great. It was like the late 2000s, like 2000 aughts, so 2007-ish about. And we just time. When we were thinking about it, and when we were thinking about starting this up, and it's like, it's one thing to say like, hey, let's do something for wrestling fans, but like I have a lot of friends who watched wrestling a very long time ago, and they had no idea what was going on in indie wrestling. They weren't aware of anything. They stopped watching it when they went to high school and started dating and all that. So they were out of it. And we said, well, how could we do a wrestling show that would appeal to our friends as opposed to an actual wrestling crowd? That was like our business model was, how do we bring in people who remember how much they loved wrestling and bring it back, and bring them back into it? Because even nowadays it's hard if you're a wrestling fan. Like I like all wrestling. I don't beg on anything. I like big feds, small feds, all that stuff. But it's like, it's so niche, and so many people are willing to kind of infight each other about like, well, this one's better than that. It's like, can't we just love it all? Love the product, right, and love like the lineage and the history of it all. So,
Lord knows I try.
Right. But you know what I mean? So it's like, as a wrestling fan now, sometimes you see, and I hate using the terms, but like you have like the real smart mark people that are almost kind of like comic book store guy from The Simpsons, where it's well, actually, it's like it's not fun. To me, it's not fun. I'm sorry. So we always wanted to bring our friends back in, and we wanted to bring people back into it that remember what it was like in the grandeur and the expectation of like craziness and wildness and wild characters, and that's where it all stemmed from. And not to go, I've never actually really told it, but like to start it, roller derby was huge back in, it's still big now, but I thought it was really big in like between 2003, 2015 or so. Like roller derby was really big in Milwaukee, and it's still there now. But we tapped into the roller derby crowd because that was a perfect group of, they had punk rock, craziness, gritty. We're like, let's totally like, yeah, we were going to the derby. We're like, why not do something to incorporate them? So we actually incorporated the roller derby girls into our first couple shows. had some guys train them a little bit so they could get in the ring, and like that, brought that crowd over and crossed it over. And then looking for different bands, punk rock bands, or looking for like first couple years, we just really varied it up. I mean, we've had every style of music you can think involved with the show, just trying to constantly change that product, and make it something that it was just more of an event, more of a happening than like an actual like quote unquote wrestling show. So,
well, to me, it's like the modern day. It's like, I love how you're saying you're trying to essentially make wrestling fun again for those jaded fans that were out there, much like Sreten. When we started this podcast, he hadn't watched wrestling or even fucked with it since probably WCW, NWO
Sure.
era,
Yeah.
20 years.
And then we got hooked up doing the podcasting gig, and I was like, man, dude, like there's so much cool shit going on with these indie feds. And I didn't even really address them as indie feds. I'm like, to me, it's just like it's federations, like wrestling promotions. And I was like, dude, there's so much stuff. And we got started right before AEW kicked off, I'd say like maybe 6-7 months before that became official. And there was all this buzz and this hype, and, everybody out there that wasn't in WWE, like Impact or MLW or whatever, said all this talent was huge. I'd never seen a quote unquote like indie pool as stacked with this amount of talent as we see now. And I'm like, dude, the stuff they're doing with guys like that you're familiar with, like Joey Ryan and Danhausen, it's just amazingly entertaining, and it's bringing the fun back, to the sport of professional wrestling.
Yeah.
I mean, because you have your people who they like some of the, and I'm much like you. I like it all. I like your deathmatch shit, silly shit. The actual sport of pro wrestling. It's just something that I've been attached to since I was a little kid.
Right.
So.
No, I agree with you. Yeah, it is. It's just, there's something to be said about. I mean, just every aspect of it. And if you can get them to fit perfectly on a show, or if you can do a show and have everything included in it, I think you've got a good soup right there. It's a good meal for everything. So.
Yeah, definitely. And from everything I've seen online of what you guys put on, it's just like the spectacular, this wrestling bazaar, if you will. And it's just amazing. And just from seeing those pictures, I got those vibes. And you guys, like Sreten said before we started recording here, you guys were very much on our radar. And it sucks because all this, because, obviously right now nobody's doing anything. But, we've been able to feature doing this show a lot of promotions, not just in the Midwest, like Freelance and Warrior Wrestling, which I know you guys have had Matt Nix up there. He's a good friend.
Right. No, absolutely. Great dude. Oh,
yeah, absolutely. And, other promotions out on the West Coast, like PCW Ultra and Joseph Samael, it's amazing. And when all these people work together and they share the talent, it's like, to me, I never stopped watching wrestling, like going into like the John Cena era, right after the WCW, ECW buyout, when it kind of got really bad for a while. I would watch it, but I would kick myself every time, because it's like I'd have friends. It was like one day you had a bunch of buddies sitting there with you, like, oh yeah, it's fucking Monday night, and then it's like dust bunnies and shit creep up.
Right? No, I agree. No, and that was I spent majority of like the mid 90s, like me and like two other guys were into wrestling. It's like we had discovered ECW, and we even tried training. We got into training a little bit back in the day and met a bunch of the guys. So just like the local guys, that is. And then we were like, it's more fun to be in a band. So like it really honestly was. So we're like, fuck it. We're just going to go and we're going to be in a band instead. But, we had a couple matches and got trained for a little bit, but it was nothing. I don't claim to have like some long history of wrestling. I was just like a lifelong fan.
Yeah.
The thing that I will say too, that's very I think it's interesting about us is that, so from the very get-go, we were essentially at the beginning, we were very much outsiders to everybody, because, here come these two fans that just want to be like, hey, we want to do this thing. And we had this idea like this, how we want to do it. We'd seen Lucha Vavoom in California, and, we're like, well, that's awesome. If we can take a part of that and we can change it and make it our, like, how do we make it our own? And what do we do to make it our own? But, for many years, the stigma on us up here in Milwaukee was like, these aren't wrestling guys. But now we're, 10, 11, we have done 11 years worth of shows, and not only just our big show at Turner Hall, we're doing, other stuff around the city, of course. And, we run maybe 4 times a year at like varied levels of our September show at Turner Hall is always our big, 900 people sellout show.
Well, didn't you guys, I saw online, not to interrupt you, but
Sure.
you guys had some by the mayor from the city, right?
Yeah, we got on our 10th anniversary, the city named it Mondo Lucha Day in Milwaukee.
Oh, come on, man. That's fucking success.
But that's so like we've always geared it like there's the old phrase, like when you're running a race, don't look to your side or don't look behind you because you're just going to slow yourself down. So we always stayed in our lane, and people would shit on us, and people would be like, they're not really wrestling. And that's fine. Like, you could say what you want, but like at this point now, it's like our track record kind of proves that we were successful in our, like what we were doing. Mm-hmm. So it's just one of those things where it's, if we would have listened to what every local indie promoter told us, and a lot of the indie guys, like we would have been shut down a super long time ago. Yeah. But we always just kind of kept a level business head about things, and we just kind of kept straight ahead. My business partner Andy, him and I are the co-owners, and like we both just sit down and we spend so much time thinking about how to present our product so that it looks professional, which is like the biggest thing, and which is one of my things I struggle with. And like, we never want to fall into the trap of having the human pyramid poster. Like, I always call it the pyramid of guys. Like, every indie wrestling promotion poster is just a bunch of guys without shirts on, and it's stacked up to the top with one guy in the middle. Like, that's cool. I get it. Like, because you're advertising your people and, and who's on the show. But like, everything we do will never be that. Like, we just try to do that, make it something that different. And then again, appeal to that crowd outside of wrestling. And just make it that something like a night out. One of the big ones people always talk about with our show that's great is if you're a wrestling fan and you come, we definitely try to stack it with as many great performers as possible. But for those that aren't real wrestling fans and they're there and they haven't really seen a wrestling ring in person, especially that close, up and close, the first bump, whether it's a shoulder tackle, backdrop, whatever, that crowd goes, oh. They're just not used to seeing that. The first guy that comes to the ring and flips over the top rope, they're, oh my God, what was that? Because they're just not used to it. And you get the fans, like the typical wrestling fans, they're kind of jaded, and it takes a lot for them to pop and for them to get it. But we always feel like we've won that crowd over. I feel like we've definitely crossed that bridge now, where we have a lot of wrestling fans that want to come to the show and are coming to the show. And now it's like 50-50, where when it first began, it was like 80 to 85% not wrestling fans, 15% wrestling fans. And it's actually really melded together now, where we're, it's like, it's this great pot of people just enjoying it for what it is. And that's entertainment, at the end of the day. So, yeah,
it's a good culture, man. Like I said, you guys, you emit that vibe just from, if someone's researching and going to mondolucha.com or following them on Facebook or Instagram, you got through your pictures and your videos. And this is something else I have to kudos to these fucking toy videos, these action figure videos. Dude, those are so awesome and entertaining with the little cheap, Dollar General fucking action figures of your guys' talent. And it's with the kids and everything. It's like throwback kind of stuff. It doesn't take itself too seriously. It's super entertaining, super fun, man. And I think, for people out there watching it, and I'm one of those people that sees that and it's just like, wow, it looks totally professional. It's great, it just amazes me. It's like, man, these guys know how to have fun,
and I'll say we have a good crew around us. So like Andy he works in the ad agency in an ad agency in Milwaukee. So they do a lot of national contracts, and we have a lot of our production staff are guys that, a lot of the commercials you see on TV now, our guys work on those. So that's how we're able to get, we just try to keep like the top notch when it comes to production. And so again, you want to keep everything to look uniform. And we've always prided ourselves too in operating in a world that's outside of everybody else's world. Like, we're just like our own world. weird, like the commercials, right? Like in some weird world, those toys exist. You know, they're a thing. But and it's funny because, and then people, the other one that's great is we love blurring the line in the sense that like we've had people come up and be like, "Hey, where can we buy those toys?"
Yeah,
and we're like, "Oh yeah, man, super limited edition sold out." But that's where the line gets blurred because last year we released a beer. We had a local brewery put out Mondo Lucha beer.
Yes.
In years previous, we've had a coloring book put out here in Milwaukee, and like we always kind of find these like weird way of doing things. So it's like, would it be really that off for us to have action figures, like some crazy weird, one-offs? No, not really. So people just are like, they don't know what to believe, what's real, what's not, and yeah, it's just kind of fun. It's fun to be able to do stuff like that.
Oh yeah, definitely, and it's good time, man. Good vibes. I was laughing my ass off when I saw those. I saw the second video, and then I had to go back and watch the first one. I was like, man, there's another one of these. I wish there was like a series on it. It's like, can we just do the match? It's like, yeah, Timmy, you can do the match, but have this like Death Rider or whatever, this giant machine coming in with, it's just great stuff, man. So, cheers to you guys for doing that because that's super cool. We were up in Racine with a shout out to another one of our confidants, Bruiser Bodie. He's up there in Racine, and we went and recorded an episode around Christmas time. And when we're driving up there, me and Sreten, I was like, man, I was trying to look and see where I wanted that Mondo Lucha beer. I mean, another one of your guys' talent that comes around here frequently is Space Monkey.
Yeah, right.
Another friend of the show, him and Shane Saber. And I was like, man, I got to get that Mondo Lucha beer because I wanted to do a series where we wrestling and alcohol. You have Dwayne Johnson now, a.k.a. The Rock, who's releasing his own line of badass tequila. You have Stone Cold, who's got his own IPA out.
That's
and
right.
all this other, Chavo Guerrero's got a beer out. So I had this idea where I wanted to do kind of like a wrestler beer review. And man, did I want those so bad, and I couldn't get them anywhere.
Yeah, it was a fairly limited run. I think even we sold out. I mean, the one venue sold out the week before the show that had it. That the actual, because it's like a small microbrewery here that did their run,
right?
But then having them at the venue itself was cool. And one of the and this speaks to the brilliance of Andy, my partner on all this. On the side of the beer can was a Snapchat logo thing. I don't know. I don't do Snapchat, so I don't. But whatever that ghost looking thing was, I think.
yeah. I got it.
And so if you took your phone and you took a picture of it or whatever it would be, you could get the image. So if it would say you had the Space Monkey can, if you did that Snapchat, you could get a filter of Space Monkey's mask over your face. So
that's awesome.
We had that for all of them. Yeah, for all the different wrestlers. So it featured Space Monkey, Eric Cannon, Rough Crossing, one of our local Red Goldstein, our champion, the Russian, and then Airwolf. So out of Minnesota. So yeah, it was pretty cool. It was a neat opportunity. Luckily, we'll do something like that again. But every year, it's that. How can we cross promote? What's the thing we can do that nobody else has done, especially locally, and how can we take it and capitalize on it?
And that's so awesome, especially for us in the small business sense. And that's something that me and Sreten have talked about with this show and that we've tried to do. We had, before all this shit started to happen, we were going to cut episode 100 at Three Floyds out here in Munster, Indiana. If you're familiar with them, you know what's up with Three Floyds. They asked us to come do episode 100 there, and Matt Nix was going to be there, Steve from Warrior Wrestling. It was going to be like this huge celebration, and unfortunately got cut short. But we've always talked about how can we do something like that, to incorporate small business, and it's all about one hand washes the other. Right. And helping each other out. And that's why I love being able to feature guys like you and Steve and, Matt Nix and Mikey from Black Label, because it benefits everybody. And it's right cool. We get to meet fucking cool people. We get to share your story. And like your guys' brand to me is like you brought up Lucha Vavoom, and it's I totally see a hint of them, what they did and what your guys are doing, and except we got it out in the Midwest, which is cool because I don't have to fight. You guys are a lot closer than California,
right? And to make it and to change it enough so that it's different, or that we offer something, a little bit different than what they do. We try to, we never wanted it to be a copy, like, oh, like here, like we're just doing burlesque and wrestling. And to be honest too, like over the years, our product has changed so much because, when we started and we were coming up with, Mondo Lucha is kind of it's a fun name and it's like kind of weird. And it's like, cause we didn't want, again, if you're trying to attract people that aren't wrestling fans, you want to name it. If it would have been called something like Crazy Wrestling or whatever it would have been, like, or whatever we would have decided to do, wouldn't, for us, it wouldn't have worked in Milwaukee. I just think it's like that, because it would have had, because we still get the stigma sometimes, like, wrestling, So when someone says, oh, Mondo Lucha, they're like, well, what's that? And so like at the beginning, we were like, like trying to do Lucha Libre masked wrestling. And then after a while, we're like, you know what? Like, we're not Lucha Libre. We're not trying to pretend to be Lucha Libre. We're just like, and so when you look at the words Mondo and Lucha, it's like Mondo means world and Lucha, fighting. So we're like world wrestling or world fighting or whatever, however you would have it. And so like we've cultivated the brand now where it's not even, we're not trying to be, or we don't claim to be Lucha. It's just that word that's in our title at this point. But we still feature a lot of masked wrestlers to that, but it's never going to, it's like just trying to find, again, that edge, that's something different that will make people be like, well, what is that? Like, what does that mean? So,
and going back to what you said, to bringing back the jaded fan or roping in the person who has never experienced professional wrestling. And in this day and age, Lucha Libre is the best way to fucking do that.
Right.
Especially now. And I really highly credit Lucha Underground for, as far as a national stage, for being able to do that and featuring a lot of these guys and getting Lucha Libre out there, and thank God for El Rey Network and Robert Rodriguez, because Lucha Libre, when you go and watch these guys perform these moves and stuff, you could be the most jaded fan in the world that, well, I remember, back in the day, ECW and all this stuff when, you had Benoit and Guerrero and Malenko putting on these clinics, and then you had, Psychosis and Rey Mysterio and all that. Lucha Libre has it all, it's insane. Like, if you don't know about AAA and CMLL and all that stuff, and now, that was kind of brought over and Americanized by Lucha Underground.
Right.
And so, easy way to break people in is Lucha Libre wrestling, man. So
absolutely. It's the, it's just the appeal of the outfit and the look and and of course, athleticism's it's always there. It's always top.
Oh yeah.
But it's great. So, but now it's like we try to, we have like our group of guys and we try to create some of our own characters just to add to it. And it's wild. We sometimes looking back and just thinking about like all the people we've had come through over the years, and just like, we had Ray Phoenix and Penta Alone was in, and just
Johnny Mundo,
our champion for and by the way, coolest dude in the world, like super nice, like just like a great dude, but it was like another weird just it's those things where you just look back and and you're just like, wow, this is kind of crazy to realize like the connections we've made, because we're not, and I mean this sincerely, like we're in the business, but we're not like in the business. Like I go through, like, Eric Cannon is a really good friend of mine.
He's awesome, dude.
Yeah. And we talk, like I bounce stuff off of him, cause I don't like some stuff I don't know, or I'm not sure about, like, well, who's looking good, or who should we bring in, or what's his got any leads, any female wrestlers, whatever. And he's always been really good with us as far as like kind of helping me out and guiding me. Cause I do watch wrestling, but I'm not so into it that I know, who's the new next one up and coming type thing.
Well, and also it's, it's people may or may not know, you're a family man, right?
Yeah. Big time.
Real life. Yeah. I got you. I'm on the same level, brother. I try to manage family life, this show, and also my band. It's 24/7 job, so you can't be as fully invested as maybe you even want to be, because of that. So,
and the guys who are on the road every day, every weekend, like they're the ones with their ear, to the wall. They're the ones like that can kind of clue you in. And I just feel like we have a really good support staff around us of friends and performers that are willing to be like, hey, check out this guy or check out that person. So it's good. And, it's nice. And it's not as difficult as it once was. It is nice now to be able to say, hey, I'm Jay from Mondo Lucha. And someone go, oh, good. I've heard of you. And it's like, okay, great. Because there was a long stretch. There were people like, who the fuck are you? And it's like, I'm like, yeah, no. And so I approach it very humbly now. And I'm like, I don't know if you've ever heard of us, but this is what we do. And then they're like, oh yeah, I've heard of you. I'm like, okay, great. Then I can skip all the bullshit. You know,
we were kind of warned when I announced on Facebook you were coming on that we have to take good care of you.
Oh, no, you don't have to. You guys are great. That's not a problem at all. Yeah, it's just very much. It's just it's a different animal. It really is. Wrestling is it's a strange creature, and it's kind of that weird thing where it's like I brag about it and I post about it in my own personal life and all my feeds and all that. And, but like, I have to keep it separate from, again, I'm a school teacher. So I try to keep that, the
church
mix, way. Yeah. You just don't, it's like, you just don't want to, kind of mingle those. Cause again, it's like, you don't know what the someone's opinion is going to be of wrestling. And then I have, I have just a lot of creative friends and friends that are in bands that have been more successful than Mondo Lucha or anything I ever have done will be. And so it's like, so what am I going to impress them with? I'm just always kind of like, hey, it's cool. Like they're good. They're great people and they're very supportive, but I'm like, they've toured the world and played all over the place and all this stuff. And I just be like, hey, we do this wrestling show, but they're great people. And, we just kind of take the creativity from everywhere we can. So
speaking of bands and stuff, let's kind of segue into that for a minute because as I was kind of creeping on your Facebook page, I saw you're a guy who obviously is into some heavy metal. You're into some punk rock. I saw you wearing a Sporting a Ghost shirt. I'm a big fan of Ghost. I got the Papa Emeritus or Emeritus, however you want to say it, pop figure over there. I've seen him twice in concert. And take us back through what Jay is listening to currently in the past. What inspires you? What really gets you wet as far as
I was always from 7th grade I was punk rock. Did through high school. After high school I went into straight edge a lot. I did a lot of that stuff. I'm clearly not anymore, but I still love all the old straight edge
band, dude.
Yeah, Minor Threat, Biscuits, Snap Cave, Shelter, all that stuff. Always been a music guy. And I think that, I'm all over the place with music, to be honest with you. I see all your Misfits stuff, huge Misfits fan. I always make the joke, I love the Misfits. I love Danzig's music. But I can make fun of that fucker all day long. But if you showed up to a concert, I would be there in a heartbeat, like Danzig. So, you know what I mean? So, I can put every funny meme I see of him up, and I'll laugh about it. But I'm loyal. I really am all over the place, and I think that again, music lends so much to what we do. It's just here's something kind of. I think this is interesting. So we have kind of our little code of ethics and rules, and what do we do with our show? Mm-hmm. And one of the things I always stress upon everybody, because if you go to an indie wrestling show, the guys want to go out at the intermission, and they want to sell their merch, or they want to do that stuff. And we don't do an intermission. And then they'll be like, oh, you don't do an intermission, I can't sell my merch. I'm like, hey, you need to be backstage, because are the Rolling Stones out at their merchandise stand selling their shirts? You know what I'm saying? So I said, create the mystique about yourself. Don't just be out there. It's different in an indie wrestling show setup. But it's different in the sense that I'll be like, hey, listen, sell your stuff, sell it at the end of the night. Come out and they'll be happy to see you. It's almost like, oh my God, people were leaving and they showed up and they were selling their shirts. But if you're standing there by yourself, in my opinion, you're kind of devaluing a little bit of who you, you're taking away the mystique of who you are.
Exactly.
So, and you know what I'm saying? It just makes that, to me, it makes that much more sense.
Well, so. and coming from, the band music world myself for the past, 15 plus years, I always liken it to you got to let people may know of you. People may have bought my record before. They may have seen shit somewhere, but they haven't seen it or felt it live. So right. I always love I go out there whether it's one person or, 1,000 people or whatever, and give them that performance to where, all right, I'm always pumped afterwards. Like, how much shit are we going to sell?
Yeah.
It's always after the show, after you perform, then you go and sell your merch.
Right. Cause that's when, like, cause you've now proven yourself and like
Exactly.
that's when they want to see it. It's always just kind of been our thing, but I was like, it's that kind of that music, way of being, I guess, or just like, I just think, treat yourself like a star and people will be like, oh yeah, that's, they're, look at this,
Like
here they are. So,
yeah.
But, which I guess goes against punk rock, but whatever. That's my big one. And the bands, like, I've always been drawn to the performance artist angle of things. That's why I think I like Ghost music, but I love the show.
You like Alice Cooper, man.
Yeah,
See?
right. Exactly. It's not, it's not, I mean, I get it. He's not really satanic, but it's awesome. Right. But it's like fun. And it's like, okay, cool. And, I'm into like that. Or like, again, the Misfits had a look. When I was a teenager, Guar had a look. Like, it's like Guar was, it's like you went and saw it. Like, was their music the best? No, but it was good enough. And I was getting shit sprayed on me all night from like Cosmic Monster. So who gives a fuck? Like it's, can I swear on this podcast? I forgot to ask that question at the start. Is that okay?
You cannot fucking say any swear
word. I was
word.
going to say, am I going to get bleeped all night here? What the hell? But so it's like anything that presents a show, like I'm totally down with. Like that's anything is, I just before the quarantine hit, like my wife and I and one of our friends went and saw the play Hedwig, which is like a kind of like rock and roll, gay, LGBTQ play. It's awesome, and it's like the music's amazing. It's kind of like glam rocky.
Oh yeah,
like the show. It's just like I love anyone that's willing to present, and that's like wrestling. If you're out of shape and you wrestle, if you're wearing just like some skivvies, if you're just wearing like the black tights and like boots, like do it because don't be that guy wearing a t-shirt because anybody in the crowd, everybody's wearing a t-shirt in the goddamn crowd. But if you're out of shape and you dress like a wrestler, I have so much more like, yeah, man, you're a wrestler. I can do that. I'm not going to do that. You're doing that. So it's like, that's, music and wrestling. Like I just look, it's like, what makes you different than the average person and what makes you stand out? You're a body guy, like you're like a Matt Cross or a Johnny Morrison. And it's like, those guys are fucking chiseled and jacked.
Yeah.
Not everybody's like that. So that's unique. Or someone's wearing straight up like wrestling, old school Arn Anderson looking wrestling gear. Yeah. 90% of the dudes in that crowd are not going to wear that outfit anytime in their life. So that's unique. And then you got masks. Guys are wearing masks. That's unique. But what takes you out is if you have a bunch of guys just in t-shirts or like basketball shorts or something like that, and we have a very specific, one of my best wrestling friends is Dysfunction from Milwaukee. Like the guy's awesome to me. He's great. I can't say enough great things about the guy. He's like our scum bum, so to speak, on our show. He's like the one guy where I'm like, you can wear basketball shorts, wear a t-shirt. And he had like a special t-shirt made that said like Mondo Lucha is trash, which I'm like,
yeah,
he's like our Kevin Steen. I like to call him our Kevin Steen, where it's just like, you're great. You get a pass. You do whatever you want. But guess what? I'm not going to let anybody else on the card have that look. That is yours. That's specifically yours. And it just fits so perfectly. And it's the character and everything about it. So, but yeah, just like creating that presence and that look and what it looks like. So that's just, and it's been like that for years. I used to listen to the Cramps a lot. Loved listening to the Cramps. And it's like seeing Lux Interior just hitting himself with a microphone and acting weird and doing crazy shit and dressing like vampires. Like that's the stuff that always appealed to me, like just kind of weirdness. So
some Gigi Allen.
Oh, of course. I saw Gigi Allen when he was in Milwaukee. So
really?
I was very young. I believe I was a freshman or 8th grade in high school when he got arrested in Milwaukee. So
no shit. You didn't get too close, did you?
No, well, nobody really did, but that was one of those where well, that was a good one too, because it was like my parents didn't know where the fuck I was. Ooh. So I'm hanging out with my friends. We go to the show. I sneak in. I'm underage at the venue. All the shit goes down. The cops show up. We leave. my parents the next day, what did you do with your friends last night? Nothing. We were just skateboarding, and we're watching the news, and he's like on the news, and this guy was crapping on stage and throwing it at the audience, and
shove a drumsticks up his ass.
Right, my mom's like, I don't want to ever hear you going to concerts like that. I'm like, never in a million years will I ever go to something like that. That's too far, mother. So yeah,
that's awesome, man.
Yeah, no, it's and funny enough, I introduced my son. My one son's 17, my other one's 14, and they don't give a shit about wrestling, which is hilarious.
Yeah,
they could care less. That'd be like if someone said to me right now, "You want to go on a space shuttle to the moon?" I'd be like, "Hell yeah!" That's what it would have been like if I was their age and someone said, "Can you go on a wrestling ring?" But we do our shows. I'm like, you guys want to bring your friends and just bump around? Like, we don't care. So they don't do that. But introducing them to music, and a couple months ago, told them, "You guys ever hear of Gigi Allen?" They're like, "No." I'm like, "Let me show you some things."
I love it, dude. I love his early shit, man. He actually had some decent vocal production.
I didn't think he was bad. No, I know. There were some good songs. Yeah,
man.
I was like, I'm like, you guys want to hear the song "Sluts in the City" or "Needle Up My Cock"? I'll play that one for you.
Needle Up My Cock.
That's cool. So, yeah, but trying to expose those guys to as much as possible. No pun intended. Yeah, and they're just like, we don't really like this. I'm like, okay, cool. Move on to the next thing.
Yeah, so, you guys ever heard of Cannibal Corpse?
Right. Right. But we took them to Ghost, so we're like, let's go see Ghost. So they enjoyed that.
I have a question, Jay.
Yeah.
You run us through real quick how you decide to lay out a show. Wrestling stuff, non-wrestling stuff, like how you pick out, because it's so eclectic, and you guys have transitioned over the last 12 years. What you started with, and you said earlier, no more magicians.
Yeah, right.
So, like the different things, so I'm fascinated by the whole thing. Just all the different variations of spectacle you bring to one show. So It's not wrestling, it's other things. Could you walk us through that?
Yeah. For sure. I think the first and foremost is when we book, and now again we have our very solid crew. It's a lot of we make sure we have who we want wrestling wise. I mean, I know it sounds weird to say because everybody wants that, but we have very specific ideas for how we want matches to go down, who we want in them, how many new guys. Usually we try to introduce 2 or 3 new guys a year. And while either phasing people out or bringing in or just which ones the crowd really wants to stay. Space Monkey's a guy that from the time we introduced him, everyone wants him every single year, and some guys will drop off for a year, come back in, things like that. Always try to phase in some new guys every year. And we're focusing on our big show in September, which is the big major one. So then we'll pick band, usually depending upon what the feel for the show is. We never want to do 2 bands the same, 2 years in a row, in the sense of if we do a rock band one year, the next year we might do something that's more electronic or hip hop. You'd like to introduce bands with girl singers. I know it sounds so archaic to even say it like that, but they're not as prevalent as you would think.
Right.
We just try to come up with different what will the crowd like? That's the other thing. We don't, believe me, if I could have some screaming death metal band up there, I totally would. But I know that that's not going to draw that's not good. You need to have something that the crowd can bite onto and be like, oh, I really like this. So this last year was Devil's Teeth, which was kind of a little bit more of an edgy surf rock. I don't even like to use the word surf rock because it's not really their sound, but that's the closest I can get. We had them, we had a dance band the year before that. Year before that was kind of a real rock and rolly 70s vibe band. Year before that, we had a disco dancey type thing. So we just kind of changed that up every year. And the show is laid out so that there's lots of ebbs and flows. We do a lot of video production. So you have a lot of little interstitial videos, like the commercial with the toys. We create all kinds of other completely bonkers, ridiculous bullshit commercials that there are things or statements. There's a whole lot. We had one about talking about how we've existed throughout time. And it was pictures of 1982 when people were fighting for Cabbage Patch dolls, and we like superimposed the wrestler in the picture, and the Berlin Wall coming down, and there's like 2 wrestlers standing there, and like so. We try to create this weird history for ourselves, like we've always been there.
I like that.
And so it's like show starts, band usually kicks off with one song. We treat it like Saturday Night Live. The bands are not doing full sets.
Right.
Band will start the show off with one song. I introduce the show. We get into a wrestling match. Then we'll have like a burlesque act come out, probably have like an interstitial video of something that we've produced, go into another wrestling match. And the formula kind of plays out like that. We do 4 to 5 matches at a show. Sometimes we've done 6, but that it just gets a little long in the tooth. Show concludes with our main event, whatever that might be. And then at the end of the show, unlike any other wrestling show I believe in the country, at the end of the night, after the main event, all the performers come out into the wrestling ring and the band plays a couple songs, and it's whether you're heels, baby faces, whoever you are, whatever you are, you're in the ring and everybody's just dancing, having a good time at the end of the show. So, and then they end up walking around the ring, taking pictures, selling their gimmicks and all of that stuff.
Yeah.
And just kind of, it's everybody's able to suspend the disbelief of who's good guys, who's bad guys for 2.5 hours. And then we just end the show. And like, cause everybody, in my opinion, needs to be congratulated on the job they've done. I mean, they work their asses off. So it'd be one thing if it's just a bunch of baby faces in the ring dancing. It's like, okay, that's great. But everybody's part of the show. So everybody needs to come out there and everybody needs to participate. So yeah, it's cool.
Everybody needs to kill kayfabe once.
And at that point, you're hoping you've taken them on this roller coaster where they're exhausted and they're just excited to see everybody out there kind of in their natural element. It's just not, it's being human beings. Because for the last 2.5 hours, they were superheroes or sexy performers or rock stars, whatever it is. And at the end, they're just human beings, and like we're all on the same page. And we're glad the audience is there as much as they're glad we're doing it. And it's just a good way for us to kind of have that good vibe with everybody. So yeah, it's like like I say, it's the ebb and the flow. Who gets the shaft? The band gets the shaft, because when the band plays is usually when people get up to buy more beer. So
that's all right.
It's always been. But if you give the band the pop at the beginning, you give the band the first thing,
right.
The crowd is so amped for the show to begin. Mm-hmm. You tell that band, you play your best song. You play the song that gets this crowd moving. You do that one right now, because that's what's going to hook them. And then when you're playing in the middle of the show, because they'll play like one more time in the middle of the show, kind of like a Saturday Night Live. A lot of people are getting their beers, they're going to the bathroom and doing that stuff, but people are still watching. And then at the end of the night, the band gets to play to all the performers in the ring, which is like, and then it's just like the party is just fucking out of control. So they get it. It's that middle performance is the one that usually suffers. So, but hey, it's rock and roll.
Yeah. I think I like it. Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then they get it. We just try to explain that to everybody. This is what's expected. This is how it works. All the wrestlers always want to work the first match, because the first match, the crowd is just so excited for that first big bump or that first big spot. Like that's, so when people come to the venue, all the workers get to the venue, they're always looking to see where they're wrestling. Like, the third match. And I'm like, I can't put everybody in the first match, so right. Got to make it. Yeah. Good. But those guys always want that spot. So it's good. Yeah. Like I say, there's a method to the madness. We look like we're about to come off the rails at any second, but it's very controlled. Like we're full steam ahead. There's no breaks. There's no stop. So it's like the band finishes playing. I come out on stage. I welcome the crowd. We talk. The first match goes on. Those wrestlers are leaving the ring, and there's a burlesque dancer going up into the ring, and I'm introducing her, and she does her thing. And by the time she's finished and she's getting out of the ring, a video's playing on the screen overhead. She clears out. By the time the video ends, I'm back in the ring announcing the next match. Like, it's nonstop. We're just like boom, 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 boom. It's exhausting. So, yeah, but it's great, because I wouldn't want it any other way. I don't want it to ever slow down. I want it to just like barrel through.
Hell yeah, that's very unique to you guys, and I think that would be an awesome experience. Just go there, fucking have a great time. Barrel through that shit, and I mean, if you are having a good time, it's gonna seem like it was an hour long,
right?
Time flies when you're having fun.
Yeah, no, for sure. And that's usually people will be like, it's over, and I'm like, well, we try to keep it to like 2 hours or 2.5 hours, 3 hours if we're going long, if things are really stretched out. But at that point, we can tell people are kind of fading a little bit. And it's like, okay, let's just take it home and kind of wrap it up. But we try to stick to about 2.5 hours. But we're also really methodical. Our pre-show, which is just a music soundtrack, the music soundtrack is completely thought about leading up to the show. Like, we don't just put on I have a set list. The doors open at 7:00. That show starts at 8:00. And that set list plays all the way up, and right at 8:00, the lights go down. And then we always play Carly Simon, Nobody Does It Better. That's the song that gets that. So this wrestling show is about to start. The crowd is amped up. The place is sold out. People are hanging from the rafters. Lights go out, and we put on Carly Simon, and you got people swaying back and forth in the crowd, and everyone's into it. It's the cockiest piece of shit ever for us to do something like that, but it's kind of like, we sold out Turner Hall. We're going to be like, hey man, this is what we do. So, so everything is just like clockwork for us. And, we're very particular, whether it be songs, music that the wrestlers come out to. None of the wrestlers have their music that they use. We curate all of their intro music for ourselves. We create all their intro videos, how we want them to look. We want them to have a different feel and vibe for our show than anywhere else that they work.
Right.
So
that's awesome. And I have a question for you about that, because from what I gather, the Russian Beast?
Yes.
Is he essentially the signature Mondo Lucha
yes
icon? Or
so, and ain't that fucked up, right? That the biggest baby face in our wrestling promotion is like a throwback 1970s Russian character that doesn't speak, has never said a word. He was there from the very first show, and he was a bad guy. Mm-hmm. And he wrestled alone, wrestled against the roller derby girls, and he lost, because of course you got to put the girls over on the first show.
Got to.
Second show, he said, or his manager said, if he beats the roller derby girls, he gets to marry one of them. And so he beat one, and we brought a minister out into the ring, and he married an unconscious roller derby girl. It was very, looking back on that, it might be a little un-PC in these times now. And then over the years, he went from being this bad guy to becoming the face of the company, and where people absolutely, they just really latched onto him. And he's just really taken off. It's the weirdest thing. And especially in politically, you think about all these last years and who's all supposed Russian bots controlling our elections, and how, and almost is reinventing of the Cold War and all that. And through all this time, we've got our biggest baby face is 1970s throwback Russian guy. And the crowd just goes nuts. And so, and I'm sorry, I didn't ramble on this, but what's great about it is, and I'll pull it back a little bit on this. So at our last show, John Morrison, Johnny Mondo was defending our heavyweight title. And he said at the show, I'm leaving, because he was signed at that point. He was going to WWE. And he said, I'm leaving here, and I'm going to take this belt with me. And so we went from being this big baby face for us and totally turned on the crowd. And I'm going to, once I win this belt, I'm just taking it with me, and I'm not coming back. So tough break, whatever. And so he had his match against Isaiah Velasquez, another big freelance guy. And the crowd thought, oh my goodness, Isaiah is going to win, because Isaiah is a former heavyweight champion for us. And then Johnny pins Isaiah's clean, and the crowd was because they all think they're smart, right? Because they're all wait, what? And so John's celebrating, and then I come out and say, hey, you know what? I forgot. There's one guy who still hasn't had a chance to wrestle tonight. And I didn't even have to say who it was, and the crowd erupted, and then his intro started. He came out, bing, bong, boom, whatever, pins John. But the best part about that whole thing is as he's fighting John in what was probably a 2 or 3 minute match at the most, because him and Isaiah already went 15 minutes, I went and got the Russians' parents who were there, and we brought them down the ramp to the ring, and he didn't know that. So when he won the heavyweight title and was holding up the belt, we brought his parents into the ring. And I've never cried in the ring, no reason, but like I was teary-eyed, like this is his goddamn parents.
Yeah.
It was like the coolest thing for his parents and everyone, and everything to see. And it was just a great time. It was just like, it's cool. And just like kind of creating those moments like that. That's what we just want to do. And, and then everyone comes out and the parents are in the ring and all the wrestlers are in the ring. And then John's going up and like, then at the end, cause he's like, I'm not going to leave a heel. So he's totally, goes up to the Russian and shakes his hand and gives him the belt and then like hugs the Russian's mother. So it's like, okay, so he leaves as a good guy too. Nobody wants to leave as that bad guy. And it was just like this great vibe. And it's just kind of like just doing shit like that. And that's what I think is just like the best part about it. So, and eliciting emotion from myself. And, and I've been planning that stuff for 6 months. But then it happens and I'm starting to get teary-eyed in the ring, So I'm like, so if it's choking me up, I'm hoping it's choking somebody else up.
Right.
So
yeah.
Good shit.
What's so I mean, obviously that's gotta be one of your favorite moments out of like you guys are going on damn near a dirty dozen, as far as being around. Is there any other moment that kind of speaks out to you loud that you're like, man, this is why I'm doing this, or
we used to have a character that was a goat, like a bisexual space goat.
I love it.
I'll find the video. I know it's not online. We've kind of kept it offline, which is fine. But he had left the promotion. He had been taken back to outer space, and he reemerged the next year when during the show a spaceship landed in the parking lot. And CNN was covering it, which again, we have pretty fucking awesome production, so it looks great. On the big screen in one of the matches, the spaceship, you see the spaceship land in the parking lot of the venue. And then that guy came out and the crowd popped really big. That was fun. Like that was cool. But like creating a CNN video, like actually like looking with our production staff and being like, let's take a look at every aspect of what a breaking news segment on CNN looks like. And then how do we do that? And then being able to film from like using drones and things to get really high so we can get like an above angle as a spaceship lands in the parking lot outside it was like a lot of production, like stuff like that's pretty cool. Like just being able to pull off weird stuff like that. One year we did a show around Halloween time. And when everybody came into the venue, there was a coffin in the middle of the ring. And I was inside the coffin for an hour and a half before the show started. So when the show started, I kicked off the lid of the coffin and came out. And so people were like, were you under the ring? I'm like, no, I was in the coffin just laying there for an hour and 40 minutes or an hour and 30 minutes. That was fun. Meeting the guys, like seriously, at the end of the day, we're all wrestling fans. So being able to meet, John or Penta or Phoenix or Matt Cross and like making really good friends, Darren Corbin, greatest guy in the world, Marion Fontaine, Space Monkey, just, all these guys, the list goes on and on. It's like far and few between. I mean, there's always a stinker here and there, but for the most part, like everybody's been great. And if they agree on your vision, or if they see your vision and they can see what you're doing and they're like, yeah, man, I totally get it. It's awesome. But we've met so many great guys, and like anytime anything like that happens, just being able to meet someone or talk to somebody or do business with somebody and make them feel respected and feel that they were treated well, like stuff like that, as long as that's good, like that's all we can really hope for. We have a wrestler, Mustafa, who wrestles for us. Over 300 pounds. I'm a terrible judge. Could be 400 pounds. A very large, tall African-American gentleman that could do a moonsault. He did I'll show you, I'll send you that link. He did a moonsault and the building almost exploded. Like when that happened, like, cause nobody knew. So, things like that. And I'm sorry, again, I don't mean to ramble. Like, here's this is a good one. Great example. And I've told this story before, but this is an awesome one. The difference between wrestling crowds and kind of wrestling crowds. So Zach Gowen comes into work for us.
Yeah.
Super great dude. Maybe 35% of the people there know he has one leg. But the problem becomes the people that don't know he has one leg, you have to convey to them that he can wrestle. Because if you don't do that, then those people that don't know that, well, they realize he's one-legged, they think that wrestlers are just beating up a one-legged guy. And it's very, how do you convey that message? So we're talking through the match at the beginning, and the guys, the heels, and then are like, hey, let's get, like, Zach rolls in the ring. Let's get some heat on him, and we'll rip his leg off and, like, throw it out of the ring. And I go, at an indie wrestling show, yes, because they know Zach Gowen has one leg. At this show, a lot of this audience doesn't know that. That's going to come off very scary for people. Mm-hmm. So I said, so how about you let him take his leg off, let him evade you guys for a little bit, let him get a move so they can go, oh, he knows how to wrestle, and then do what you do.
Yeah.
That's how it works. And they're like, okay, well, sure, we'll go with it. You're the booker, so whatever you say. And that was one of those moments where I'm just like, when it went off, that's exactly what happened. The crowd accepted it, and then they let the heat go on Zach.
Right.
But if we wouldn't have done that, it would have been a lot of people feeling very uncomfortable in the audience. So, just trying to be able to navigate those waters. Those are the best parts about being a booker. Like, how do you make this work for everybody? Because if everybody there is at an indie show and they all know him, then they're expecting him to get jumped and his leg to get ripped off, and there are all kinds of stuff that happen to it. But, and then to this day, still having people come up to me that aren't full-on wrestling fans and go, so what'd you guys do? Tie his leg behind his back? And I'm like, doesn't even fucking make sense. That's physically, that would be the hardest thing. But it's great because they think that that's what we did. Yeah. He was really one-legged. I'm like, yeah, he was one-legged. Like, why is that so hard to believe? And if he wasn't one-legged, if he was two-legged and the guy's moonsaulting on one leg, he's got to be really goddamn good to be able to take away half of his legs and be able to do that stuff. So.
Oh yeah. Well, look at that guy that they've had at, I can't remember his name, but I know he's done some shit with AEW. He doesn't have any legs.
Right. Exactly. Where's he tying those things?
I don't know. Is it super? Hey, is he superimposed?
Right. He's got green screens on his legs. What are you talking about?
Right.
Lieutenant Dan, special effects.
Yeah, no, I know. It's just, but that's those are the things more so than the moments, the things that make people go, what? Like, how did you do that? Like, where did you find a priest to marry a masked man to a roller derby girl? Where did you get this? And then you're like, awesome, I got you. Because you're the same person that walked into the show and said, this wrestling, I know it's not real. Let me see if this is entertaining or not. And then at the end of the show, that's the same guy going, wow, so where'd you find a priest? And it's like, fair enough, dude. That's cool. So,
touche.
Yeah, I can appreciate that stuff. Yeah. But but again, we owe everything to the talent. I mean, over the years, just surrounding ourselves with great talent. That's all that, I think that's what kind of propelled us in Milwaukee. Mm-hmm. And also not using a lot of the same talent that is used locally, like trying to bring people in that makes it different. We don't want to have every same person that's on every other show here. So, and just kind of offering that to everybody is what makes us kind of stand out a little bit. We're not any better than anybody else. We're just doing something different. That's my
right. Now, you guys, who else is up there? Is it Zello Pro? Is Zello up there?
They're in Chicago. They've run Turner, I think, once or twice. So, But it's, again, we were the first wrestling promotion to run in Turner Hall. Mm-hmm. When our tickets go on sale for our Turner Hall show, our big show, tickets sell out in 2 days. And we put tickets on sale usually 6 months before the show. We announced no talent. Nice. So we're selling out off of our name, not off of anything else. So I think a lot of times promotions from other cities look into that and say, oh, well, we can come out to Milwaukee because it looks like a good wrestling town and we can do that venue. And nobody, I mean, and again, I'm not trying to be like, oh, we're great, but like nobody's coming close to that. And they're wondering why. And I could tell them if they asked me, a lot of the wrestling fans live in the suburbs, the surrounding suburbs of Milwaukee. They don't like to come downtown. It's very hard. Like NXT sometimes doesn't even sell out Turner Hall.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is what it is. And again, I'm not saying we're better than NXT. It's just like we've just created something that's very organic and very Milwaukee based. People like to support hometown.
Yeah.
So like we've created, like we go out of our way to do things in the city and for the city, hence the day being named after us. And so like people see that, oh, like AAW ran Turner Hall and it was okay. I mean, I think they had a couple hundred people there. It was decent.
Mm-hmm.
But then they're like, well, why didn't more people come? It's like, well, I can't tell you. And I mean, I can tell you, I just don't think that there's not that big of like an inside wrestling crowd. It's Dave Harrow runs great shows up here, Blizzard Brawl, that brings a lot of people because he brings in a lot of like, not nostalgia, but he brings in a lot of like the name people that can do autograph signings and all that stuff. People in Milwaukee, as much as AEW is exposing them to things and they're running through, and like they're seeing a lot of these guys, it's not as like, they're not as rabid as people might want to think as in other cities.
Right.
So it might be a little bit of to see what we do and then realize this, we're doing something different, and that's what it is. So,
well, and you guys have been doing it in that place for so many years now. We're talking over a decade. So,
right.
I mean, you're the home team.
Right, exactly. And then people, and you know what? And when other promotions like Zello or AEW or whoever comes through, and people be like, "Oh, are you mad that they use some of your guys?" I'm like, I don't care. Like, we're not competing with anybody.
Yeah, see, I've heard stories of vice versa, the other way around. So I won't say any names, but I've heard that, like especially in the Chicago area, it's like, oh well, you can't, if you're gonna come here, you can't work there.
I joke like I'll show up because I'm cordial to everybody. I really honestly think it's great. The more people that get eyes on wrestling, I'm happy with it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'll joke because some of our guys will be on the show, and then I'll walk up to them and be like, oh, brother. Looks like you're choosing sides, brother. And then they're like, I'm really sorry. I'm like, no, I don't care. Like, like, they need to, I want them to get as much work as possible.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the only thing I would be leery on is if so say one of those companies were to do a show like a week before our show there, I'd be a little leery on that. But the venue, we have such a good working relationship with the venue. The venue won't book any wrestling shows like 2 months around us. Mm-hmm. Because they don't because they respect like the product that we're doing. So
that's great.
But we've had promoters try to call the venue and say like we're bad for business, and we've had like promoters that tried to like do kind of dastardly deeds to us, but it's like, okay, well, who cares? Like, why? Who cares? Like, we're not coming in your backyards, or we're not doing anything. We're just doing our thing, and you can keep doing yours.
Yeah. So, can't we all just get along,
Right. No, absolutely. And I'll help anyone, but it's one of those things too, where it's like, but it has to be reciprocal, and there has to be like, don't call me up and try to use me for for something, like to get your foot in the door somewhere, or to try to like get a ring. Whatever. But it's definitely like, if someone needs help, we'll genuinely help someone if they're interested in the help, but don't come to me and to try to just, I don't say wheezing, it's such a bad word, but it's just
don't be wheezing the juice.
Yes. Yeah. But again, I wish success on everybody. I hope everybody does good. And I hope, but then you got to look at wrestling and you got to ask yourself, like, where are we in the bell curve in wrestling right now?
Mm-hmm.
And if we're all wrestling fans, like, as cool as it is that AEW is on TV, does it have sustaining staying power? Does it because, when, as a teacher, when I talk to kids in my school, they don't know anything about AEW. They kind of barely know Ring of Honor. But when they say like, I'm going to WWE, it like Kleenex is Kleenex. Kleenex is a brand. It's not a thing. But people refer to any kind of tissue as Kleenex.
Yeah.
The catch-all for wrestling is WWE.
Yep.
And so how do you break down that stereotype for, and it's like, and if we're all in this echo chamber of we love wrestling and we love stuff, how do we break out of the echo chamber and expose it to other people and get them in without it seeming like, again, a bunch of comic book guys from The Simpsons sitting around and being too smart for the room, because that's just going to turn people away. So, but
I think this time period might be the best chance possibly in history of Kleenex getting broken up.
Yes. Yeah.
Because there's so much out there, and there are so many flavors of ice cream out there. There's so many creative people out there. You got to find something you like. If you like spectacle, like if you like music, you like going to concerts, there's so much awesome music out there, and there's so many awesome performers out there. You're going to find a band you fucking love, whether it's something funky, punk music, classical music, doesn't matter. It's the same thing with wrestling. It's the same thing with almost every artistic thing you can get out there. Like even somebody that like paints with crayon or like colors with crayons, you can find like 1,000 dudes in the country that are badass Crayola crayon artists.
Wow, that sounds like a challenge.
Yeah, it's an amazing time for creative people. And because, arguments could be made for what's the problem with WWE. People that love it. So we tend to knock it. If you like it, that's cool.
Right.
But this is the time that there's a way to, like, you don't have to like them. If you do, cool. You don't have to like AEW. If you do, cool. There's all these small promotions. There's all these Chicago promotions, East Coast, West Coast, Midwest, Milwaukee. Like everybody's doing cool shit. So yeah, I'm always excited. That's why I continue to be excited. Like week to week as we do this, it's super exciting because there's just so much. Like I love being entertained. The flip side is being obsessed and continue to be obsessed with the news and the ugliness of politics and going into all these ugly wormholes and pulling all your hair out because everything sucks and you think the world's going to end. And if like people, and now we're in a seemingly apocalyptic scenario, whereas before, but it's still an incredibly special time for creative people. I'm a broken record about this shit.
No, I agree.
So I think this is the best chance for that.
I just
possibly happen.
But I always get worried about the fracturing. If it fractures too much and it splinters too, like it's kind of like, and again, like with wrestling, if it splinters too much or it fractions too much, then audiences tend to like just definitely like that tribalism where they go to their one specific thing, and then nothing will be able to branch out. Or nothing will be able to like supersede or go get bigger than what they're at. And unfortunately, you're at this point where WWE is already this like juggernaut, and they are what they are. But it's like, so how, that's the $1 million question, isn't it? How do you get those promotions like AEW or Ring of Honor or Pro Wrestling Guerrilla or whoever it is? How do you get them to get to that next level where they can get those fans? And it's like, I mean, how many years away are we? That's the other thing too, because it might take, if you look at how WWE ebbs and flows, they have a great roster of talent right now. But there's like these periods of like 4 years or 5 years where it's like, I can't tell you what the hell was going on. Like it was just kind of like the ships adrift. So it's like, do they have 5 years to actually right the ship? And not that the ship's in a wrong spot right now, but do they have 5 years time of spending money for them to be able to get to a place where that production and product is equal to, or, they're with WWE? That's my whole concern. I just hope that it's there, because even though Tony Khan's a wrestling fan, much like the old WCW stuff, like use that as
Ted Turner was too,
But it's like once the billionaires start seeing that, hey, this wrestling project you have is in the red numerous years in a row, we need to cut the losses. It's like, what's gonna, will that happen? Does that happen? Who knows? But that's what's exciting, because we get to see it all unfold, and it's not our money.
Yeah, exactly.
What's your prediction though? I love people predicting things. I mean, if you don't want to answer, that's cool.
No, I'll tell you what, I'll be honest. If you just, again, I'm taking for the fact that since I was a teacher, taking into fact, like all the kids that I know and I see and I talk to, they don't know anything about AEW. I don't I see it ending up like a Ring of Honor where it becomes, they'll sell off to some like Clear Channel type thing, and they'll end up being another like Saturday, what have you. Because look, right now Jericho can talk all the stuff he wants on WWE, and he can, kind of be the stinker. But eventually Jericho wants to go into the WWE Hall of Fame and he's going to want to end on the big stage. So he's eventually going to leave there. Do the guys that they have at AEW, do they have the power to pull in that casual wrestling fan that's watching? I don't know. I'll be honest. I don't know. And it's the same problem that TNA had. TNA, this guy got released. This guy got released. And then they come over to AEW, or they went over to TNA. And it's just like, so all the people that just got released from WWE ended up over on this other program. That's not a good look.
Right. Yeah.
In my opinion.
I definitely agree with that.
And people can say Mick Foley, Hogan, Flair, Angle, Christian were all past their prime. But there was a point in the mid 2000s when all of those guys were in, and Kevin Nash were all in TNA at the exact same time, and they still didn't do anything for ratings.
No, I think the only thing they did, maybe Angle, when he first came in and had that feud with Joe, that was probably like the best shit, some of the best shit they've ever done, Right. And then the booking afterwards, like you said, the bringing in all the ex WWE talent. I was so fucking pissed when I saw the goddamn Nasty Boys show up. I'm like, dude, what the hell? I had watched this since the beginning. I was at the first Bound for Glory in Chicago. It was great. It was a great time. You felt this buzz. And when they initially announced Hogan, now no one knew what was going to happen, but you were just like, holy shit. Well, if the Babe Ruth of wrestling is going to go there, maybe something could happen again, but all they did was try to, copy and paste some WCW shit. And then you had guys that just didn't belong, like I said, that the Nasty Boys should have never showed up there.
Right.
I mean,
you're trying to the goal is to get casual wrestling fans.
Exactly.
The goal, like the hardcore wrestling fans already know about, like, there's nobody that is really in love with wrestling that doesn't know who or what is going on with AEW. So if the goal is getting, and this I'll tie this to our product. So if the goal is getting casual wrestling fans, okay, King Corbin, listen, not my favorite at all, but the dude's 6'5" or 6'6" or whatever, and he's built what have you. You look at the guys in WWE's roster, and you have, with the exception of your Daniel Bryans, you have a lot of guys that they have a look to them. So if you're a dad watching wrestling with your 12-year-old son, and you flip by AEW and you see, and personally, I love Orange Cassidy, I love Darby Allin, I love all that stuff. Mm-hmm. But if you're just a regular Joe Schmo dad with his kid and you flip by, Darby Allin looks like a kid with half of his Halloween makeup on. I'm not trying to shit on, like I say, I love him. I think he's great. I love it. But I'm just saying, as a casual dad, John Cena, Rock guy, he sees that and it looks Bush League.
Yeah, it looks like college radio,
You see Orange Cassidy, and if you're not a wrestling fan, you don't get it. Right. I love it. But again, dad working the 9-to-5 job with his son, just want to watch John Cena do his whatever bump knuckle jump or whatever he did. No, right, and all that. They want the "You Can't See Me" and the stuff like that. They see Orange Cassidy, and it's literally a guy in jeans with his hands in his pockets. They don't get it. It takes so much time for these things to develop. And, and if you're used to, as a casual fan, watching the glitz and glam and the pyrotechnics of WWE kind of coming down in scale at all, seems like a total letdown to the average person. Yeah. So how do they get that crowd? That becomes the issue. And I hope they do. I want them to.
Yeah.
So.
And especially in this time though, of, it couldn't have come at a worse time.
Right.
Any time is not a good time for this shit. But man, they just started off, and before this happened, I think Dynamite had been, since the beginning of 2020, firing on all cylinders. The storytelling, everything with they're listening to the fans. It's great, but it's like you said, to develop stars like that have that brand awareness. Like you think of WWE and you think of Hulk Hogan or King Kong Bundy or Daniel Bryan, any of those guys. AEW's got to have that.
It's like I don't know. I'm a realist. Like, I feel like a lot of times people don't look outside of the products that, or the things they like, and to me, I can look outside of wrestling and I can say, okay, well, why isn't this appealing, or what is it? And I know why I know why I love like the dead Kennedys, but I also know why people hate the dead Kennedys. You know what I mean? Like, it's, you know what I'm saying? Well, it's like, people be like, well, how can you not like this? It's like, because I don't like it, or whatever it would be. And I think it's hard for people to accept if people don't like something that they're really passionate about. So
trust me, man, I play grindcore, so there's a lot of people that don't like my shit.
Right.
Whatever. And I also like Frank Zappa, and a lot of people don't like that shit.
Yeah. So it's, and I think that's what wrestling really comes down to a lot of times is like being able to look outside of wrestling and say, well, you know what, I can understand why this isn't taking off, or why this isn't, it isn't where it needs to be. And the other one, and I'll make one more point. Again, I'm not trying to shit on AEW here, but people be like, dude, their pay-per-views are selling, like they sell out and all that. Well, right, because they're not doing pay-per-views every month like WWE. And then they're like, oh my God, and people are coming from all over to go. And I go, yes, because they're making them events. They have all that StarCast shit that happens all the weekend around them. If they were just doing a straight up pay-per-view in a city without doing StarCast, without doing all of like the fanfare around it, the pay-per-views wouldn't be drawing as well. Does that, get what I'm saying? Like, it's just like,
I totally get it.
That's why it's like a SummerSlam. Like, that's why they do SummerSlam or
the Big Four.
They have like a whole week built around it in whatever city they're in. And that's where it is. But it's like, but you can't, if you're not going to market it out for people that aren't familiar with the product, if everything's going to be inside baseball, then you're not going to grow as a product.
Right.
So,
and, they're bringing in some of those guys, and with all the amount of talent cuts that WWE just made, you guys out there listening, go back to episode 103. We talked about that and kind of speculated where some of these guys and girls might end up. Just as it's much like you're saying, though, Jay, as long as it doesn't get to be like a TNA where they're just bringing them in for the sake of, oh, they were WWE, we got to grab them in. No, grab the guys that count. A John Moxley fucking counts.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
Chris Jericho counts,
and not that everybody shouldn't get a shake.
Right.
But, I mean, but what's the old expression? Don't piss on me and tell me it's raining. Like, you can't bring in guys that, and unfortunately might have been mid-carded or kind of jobbed out, and then be like, and here they are, like this is like you're supposed to care about them. I forgot, like it's Sean Spears, I think it is, in the Perfect 10, Ty Dillinger. Like, that's like one of those, like, it just didn't go over that great on the main roster, but like, and he's a great worker, he's a good dude, but it's like, but you can't just be like, and look at how awesome he is here, because it, to a regular fan or an average fan or whatever, a passing by fan, they see him like, oh, I remember that guy kind of did something, and then they got rid of him, Yeah. But I'm super high on Zack Ryder, so I hope he goes to AEW. That's I love Zack Ryder.
Zack and Cody, man, the Sweet Life.
I know. Was that you that put that up?
No, No.
Did you see that? Someone had that where they said the Sweet Life of Zack and Cody should be their tag team.
Yeah. I did see that, but I was instantly, when he got released, it kind of crossed my mind. What AEW too is they need more programming. You can't survive on just 1-2 hour show, especially if you're going to be bringing in a bunch of talent. They're going to need more programming. I know they've talked about they're going to be doing that going forward. So only time will tell with them. But speaking of getting programming and content and everything, Jay, where can people find Mondo Lucha? Can people, are you guys available on a streaming service, DVDs?
You know what? I would say right now the best bet is look us up on Facebook and get into our, like, on our Facebook page, because we're going to be releasing a lot of free content since we're all stuck indoors. We just last week released the King of the Mondo Lucha Jungle match, where it was Space Monkey versus Serpentico versus Thunder Frog versus Airwolf. I believe the next one is a 4-way for the women's title match, where it was Shotzi Blackheart, Melanie Cruz. Why am I forgetting who else was and there was someone else in that I can't remember, but that's so that match is going to be coming out. We'll be releasing the Isaiah Velasquez versus John Morrison match. We have, I think we're releasing Matt Cross versus Gringo Locos coming out, but we're going to be punching a lot of those out for free on through Facebook. Going to be doing watch along parties. We're going to also be releasing a lot of our old content, production stuff that we've done. We're going to be releasing that through Facebook as well, for people to have the opportunity to just watch and just kind of find some things that help us pass the time during this pandemic.
Right.
So crazy.
And you guys also, I mean, you have a YouTube channel as well. So
yeah, tons of stuff on the YouTube channel. And now it's just we had TV lined up in Milwaukee, but then kind of pulled the plug on the TV a little bit with all this going down without any events to promote. There's no point for us to do TV right now.
Yeah.
But that's somewhere we're thinking about that down the road. And then we're just crossing our fingers and seeing what happens because we're hoping that we can get like one of our big shows in before the end of the year. We have a date and we haven't announced it because with the way this thing is sliding back and back and back, and who knows, it's like, we don't want to announce anything. We're clearly not putting tickets on sale anytime soon. But we're just kind of crossing our fingers and hope that we'll be able to get something out there this year. So the good news for us is because we have the ability to do that one-off show when bands are touring. So bands are canceling their tours and then scheduling the entire tours for like next year or like way later in the year. Bands aren't just canceling single dates. They're completely wiping out their tours. So the second that they start opening up, the government says, hey, this can do this, or this many people can go in a venue, whatever. We have the ability to be like, oh, we can fill a date, So if they're like, hey, a month from now, we're going to open everything up again, wishful thinking, we can say, well, that's cool. If they're going to go with it and things are playing out right, we could totally do a show and like change the date for our show. So we're pretty fluid, whereas other, touring acts can't do that. So, which is great. So we're kind of playing it by ear for that, but I'm super freaked out. I have panic attacks about catching this virus. And so when you see me next time, I'll be wearing a bubble. I'll be just like in a giant bubble.
Like Jake Gyllenhaal, wasn't he the bubble boy?
Yeah. No, I was thinking about that. So I'm like, I could totally get into that and just be in a bubble. So
yeah, man, I feel you on that. I just had a child. I had another son a couple weeks ago now, and I've still been working, So it's a scary deal, man. And a lot of people don't take the shit seriously. So that's for them,
Right. Right on.
But yeah, everybody, Jay, I'd like to thank you for coming on the show, brother. We got to have you on again. When you guys do set something up and everything is ready to go, Sreten and the Juice will be there for sure, dude.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, you guys on the house, you guys can come up for sure.
Oh man, we're not worthy. We're not worthy.
Listen, I'm not going to get a hotel room. You guys got to drive back yourself.
God damn it. We might find out. We might find out where you live and come snuggle with you.
Yeah. My wife will be very happy about that.
Yeah, right. So they get the fuck out. Everybody, please check out Mondo Lucha at mondolucha.com. Find them on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Great group of guys. Jay, you have an excellent product that really needs more eyes and ears on it. I can't say enough good shit about it, and hopefully we'll be able to check it out soon. And until next time, everybody, Juice Pro Wrestling is available on every podcasting platform every Wednesday. Hit us up, like, subscribe, all that good shit. Leave a fucking rating and review if you will. Until next time, we got to wet 'em up, wet 'em up, wet them up. Oh my God, I'm so wet. For Mondo Lucha!
You gonna do sex to me?